Hello, good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you to the 44th lecture of Archaeological Sciences Center webinar series of IIT Gandhinagar. Today we have an interesting talk. We again go back to the Chalcolithic era and try to find out some of the key aspects related to the lithic tools from Gujarat and beyond. And we have with us Dr. Charusmita Gadekar. I welcome you, Charusmita, for this talk, and I also thank you for sparing your time to deliver this talk. And I invite Unka to give a brief introduction of about Charusmita, and then we can proceed with the talk. Unka.
Yes. Welcome everyone to the 44th lecture of the ASC webinar series. For today's talk, we have Dr. Charusmita Gadekar. Please allow me to provide a brief introduction. Dr. Charusmita Gadekar currently serves as a guest faculty at the Department of History and Archaeology, Shiv Nader Institute of Eminence, Greater Noida. Additionally, she also holds title of Ashoka Fellow at CIAR Ashoka University in Haryana. During her Mary Skłodowska Curie Actions Individual Fellowship in Spain, Dr. Gadekar conducted one of the first researches aimed at understanding utilization of stone tools by analyzing plant residues extracted from the edges. Dr. Gadekar has contributed widely to national and international peer-reviewed journals. Her researches focus on lithic tools associated with Mesolithic period and Harappan civilization. Today's talk is entitled Significance of Stone Tools from Chalcolithic Gujarat, Recent Perspective. Stone tools play a crucial role in understanding human prehistory, particularly in South Asian contexts, where they often endure as the sole surviving remains amidst environmental and human disturbances. Through meticulous studies, their significance in revealing tool varieties, technological advancement, material procurement, and trade routes become apparent. Today's presentation will underscore the importance of stone tools from various Chalcolithic sites in Gujarat. Before we commence, I extend our gratitude to Dr. Gadekar for joining us today. Now you may please proceed with the presentation.
Thank you so much. And before I start, I would like to thank the Archaeological Science Center, IIT Gandhinagar, for giving me this opportunity to present my work. Even though the title is Significance of Stone Tools from Chalcolithic Gujarat, Recent Perspectives, towards the later part of the talk, we will be going a little bit away from Gujarat and talk about my current work, which is focused more outside Gujarat. So, okay. So the moment we think of stone tools, we think about the Paleolithic time, or a time when people were basically surviving, doing hunting, gathering, fishing, and foraging activities. And one of the reasons why, because this is the time period where stone tools are found most in abundance, and that's why they become the major source of information about the lifestyle of the people. But what about later period, especially the period when people started beginning the process of settling down, or when we have the beginning of one of the first and one of the earliest civilizations of the world. So what do we see then? So as stated in one of the papers of Professor Kenoyer, the term Chalcolithic was used to describe the technological aspects of these large urban sites, because a lot of chipped stone tools alongside copper and bronze were identified from the site Mohenjo-daro. So that was said in 1925, 1927. Then Mackay in 1938 makes this statement that even though the term Chalcolithic has been used because of the presence of these long flint flakes, copper and bronze basically practically entirely ousted stone. But is that the case? And we will be seeing what actually happened during the Chalcolithic period, focusing on Gujarat. So when we look at all the excavation reports, what we see is that Chalcolithic lithic tools, the stone tools, are generally put into these categories known as other antiquities or minor antiquities, small finds, miscellaneous objects. And most of the time, they are just not given the importance that they deserve. There is no proper data, there is no proper statistics given about these stone tools, so that they are not at all in a comparable state. And so what we are going to try and see if these minor antiquities can give us major informations when we do the research properly. So so I have selected these 6 sites which are all situated in Gujarat for my presentation today and for my work as well. I will first talk about the chronology of the site and then give an introduction of the site one by one, and then we will talk about the lithic tools. So what we see is that Chalcolithic period in Gujarat has a very unique pattern. So we have sites which are what are known as the regional sites, sites where people have been living there for a very long time, what we call the Mesolithic time or even before that. Then we have sites where we see a beginning of the contact from sites situated in modern day Sindh area in Pakistan. Then we have sites which are part of the proper Harappan civilization. And then we have sites which are a little later but contemporary to the Harappans, but having a regional culture. Most of these sites are situated in Saurashtra, and that's why they are also known as Sorat Harappans. I have tried my level best to simplify the chronology of this period and just for a better understanding of what I'm going to talk about. So the first site or the one of the earliest sites is the site of Loteshwar. This site is locally known as Kharino Timbo. It's situated in the Patan district in North Gujarat, near the river Khari. This site was first excavated by Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, the MS University of Baroda during the 1990-91. The site was re-excavated in 2009 as part of the North Gujarat Archaeological Project, which was a collaboration between Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MSU Baroda, and the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, IMF CICIC, Spain. So from here, the excavations basically revealed 2 cultural periods, Mesolithic and Chalcolithic. The Mesolithic is one of the earliest Mesolithics which we have from the subcontinent, though we are not going to talk about that in this particular presentation. The Chalcolithic at the site is characterized by shallow deposits where we have predominance of a particular type of pottery known as the Anartha pottery. Anartha is the ancient name for North Gujarat. This is a very distinct type of pottery. Again, not going in detail about the pottery. We have terracotta objects, especially this particular small figurine. We have objects made out of fanes, objects made out of shell. We have shell beads, different types of beads, including steatite microbeads. We have terracotta and shell bangle fragments. We have a lot of clay lumps with reed impressions, which might signify wattle daub kind of structures were being constructed at the site. We have a lot of charred wood and animal bones. Very interestingly, we have this small copper punch and also a fragment of a copper bangle from the site. We also have these otoliths of a particular fish variety from the site. The next site chronologically is the site of Datrana. Datrana is locally known as Hadkawado Timbo, meaning mound of bones. And this is again situated in the in Santalpur Taluka of Patan district, Gujarat. The site was first excavated by the Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MSU, during 94-95. But during 2010, under No Gap project, North Gujarat Archaeological Project, the site was re-excavated. The excavation revealed again twofold cultural sequence, Mesolithic followed by the Chalcolithic, though the Mesolithic during this particular time was found to be very flimsy. Okay. The Chalcolithic period, what we have from the site is early Harappan Sindh type pottery, which signifies the contact with the site situated in Sindh. At the same time, we have this particular pottery, which is very regional, known as the pre-Prabhat pottery. We have some copper objects, including these copper punches. We have different types of beads, and some bead making activity was most probably being carried out at the site, which can be seen in this photograph. We have bangles, we have, of course, lithic deposit, animal bones, grinding stones, and we have fish otoliths. Next, we have the sites of Bagasra and Shikarpur. So, Bagasra is a small fortified Harappan industrial site. Now we have come to the proper Harappan civilization time frame. The site is situated in Malia Taluka of Rajkot district, Gujarat. The site is locally known by the name Gola Dhoro, which means a circular mound. And the site was excavated by Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MS University of Baroda, for 9 consecutive years, starting from 95-96 field season. So what we can see, as we can see here, the settlement follows a very simple plan, and there are 2 distinct segments at the site. We have a fortified area, and then we have the southern area, which was also occupied outside the fortification. So within the fortified area, we have different types of craft activities. For example, flourishing craft activities. For example, bead manufacturing, or especially the production of paints and stone beads, as well as structures which are associated with different type of craft activities. And even though it's not that only the craft activity was only flourishing in the fortification area, we do have evidence of beadworking and pottery production outside the fortification as well. Shikarpur is a contemporary site, locally known as Valamir Timbo. It's situated in Kutch, right across, if you see the map, right across the Gulf of Kutch from Bagasra. The site also has a small fortified area. The site was initially excavated by the Gujarat State Archaeology Department in the 80s, late 80s, 87 to 89. But ultimately, it was re-excavated by the Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MS University, from field season 2007-2008 till almost 2014. So, okay. So fortification of the site kind of ensures an area, again, where we have craft activities inside the fortified area. And most probably this is based on economic activities, or even there was a central area which was left open, and it has been termed as a place where communal ceremonies were carried out. So I'm not going to go in detail, but these are the different periods which have been identified from both the sides. From Bagasra, there are 4 phases of occupation, going back to early stages of urban Harappan to post-urban Harappan, that is 1700 BC. While in Shikarpur, what we see is that the early phase starts with proper urban Harappan phase, 2460 BC, and goes up to the post-urban Harappan phase. For this particular presentation, what I have done is I have selected phase 2 of both the sites. Phase 2 of both the sites, and phase 2 is the most prosperous that we have, that prosperous period which we have from both the sides. Okay, so these are some of the mainstream, very well-known antiquities associated with proper Harappan civilization periods. So we have the pottery, we have shell bangles, we have animal figurines, we have very, very different type of beads made out of lapis lazuli, beads made out of steatite, carnelian, shell beads, etc., even terracotta beads. We have copper objects from both the sides, and so on paper, it would look as if the sites are just very similar, but obviously that is not the case, which we'll be talking about later. Okay, for the next period, I have selected two sites, one which was excavated by, again, Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MS University. But I have selected Kotara Bhadli. Kotara Bhadli was excavated by Deccan College, Pune, in association with Department of Archaeology, Gujarat State Department of Archaeology. Why? Because these two sites are contemporary, and the stone tools from both the sites have been analyzed in a way that they can be compared. So, as you can see from the dates, the sites are contemporary. Both the sites have abundance of pottery, what has been termed as the Sorat Harappan pottery, which is a regional pottery found mostly in the Saurashtra area. But surprisingly, Kotara Bhadli is not located in Saurashtra. Kotara Bhadli is located in the Kutch. But we kind of have very comparable number of artifacts from both the sites in terms of different type of terracotta objects, different type of stone objects, shell objects, copper objects, of course, animal bones, as well as structural activities. So from P3rd, we have two phases of structural activity, and from Kotara Bhadli, they have identified a fortification wall with bastions, a gate, and a residential structure in the central portion of the site with 13 rooms. So I'm very thankful to Dr. Hiza Abbas, who carried out a very intensive study of the microliths recovered from the sites, even though they are very few in number. But it's a study which can be used for comparative work, and which should be the ultimate goal for any study which is carried out anywhere. So now coming to the lithic analysis part. Again, we will start with the earliest site, that is the site of Loteshwar. So what do we see when we see the Loteshwar lithic assemblage? And again, we are going to talk about only the Chalcolithic period, not about the Mesolithic period. So from Loteshwar, we have evidence of different types of blades, different types of geometric tools, non-geometric tools, and a lot of lithic debitage, corresponding lithic debitage, which basically suggests that the tools which we find from the site were manufactured on the site itself. They were not brought from somewhere else. So majority of the blades were found without any retouches, so what are known as the simple blades. But apparently they were used. Though I have not carried out any macrowear analysis or anything like that, but just by looking at the wear on the edges, I have come to the conclusion that a lot of blades show signs of usage. In the geometric tool category, we have equal number of triangles as well as trapezes. Lunettes are a bit lower. So the moment we have geometric tools, the idea is that people were using these tools to make composite objects. Though we do have a lot of non-geometric tools, especially different types of scrappers. When we look at the technique, it has been observed that the technique used for blade manufacturing was what has been termed as the quartering technique of making blades, in which you take a nodule and you use percussion to make 4 pieces of that nodule, and then use pressure to manufacture blades. So that's how the technique was being used at the site. So we have, so that's what we have about, that's what we know about the lithic assemblage found from Loteshwar. So these are some of the representative tools which we have from the site. So here we can see different types of geometric tools. All these show different type of geometric tools. Geometric tools are basically when simple flakes are retouched to give the tool a particular shape. So, like for example, this is a lunette. These are trapezes. Here we have that's a proper triangle, etc., etc. So here we have some of the blades, and then here we have some of the blade cores. Okay, coming to Datrana. Datrana is a site which is really something. So Datrana is the oldest and biggest blade factory site situated, I think, in the whole subcontinent. Um, so we have about from the excavation, one season of excavation, one trench, we found more than, as you can see, more than 10,000 blades from the site. Very few geometric tools were identified from the assemblage. Though non-geometric tools are slightly higher in number, and especially here, what we see is a predominance of points. A huge amount of lithic debitage has been identified from the site. So, based on the ratio of lithic debitage to the tools, whatever I have seen across the various sites, my hypothesis is that the blades which we have are about half of what they might have produced. So they most probably there was a trade. I mean, what was the point of producing thousands of blades? Um, Interestingly, the site has not given any evidence of any type of crop processing. So they were getting the grains, like ready-made grains were brought to the site. So maybe they were trading these blades for the grains. We don't know. That's the hypothesis. Okay, so what do we see? We see a lot of blades from the site. The blades are predominantly made out of the raw material chalcedony. But interestingly, we do have a lot of blades which show sign of utilization. So this again is not something I have explored too much in detail. 4.2% blades were found to have been retouched, most probably to facilitate hafting. I'm not very sure. Amongst the geometric tools, we have evidence of triangles, units, but not in a huge quantity. But what we have are a lot of points which are again made on these blades. Very interestingly, the technique which has been followed for this mass blade manufacturing activity is something which is known as crested guiding ridge technique. This is a technique which is associated with the Harappan civilization, and it is Datrana is the earliest site in Gujarat from where we have the evidence of crested guiding ridge technique. So the idea is that this technique has come to the site because of some contact with the Sindh, which can also be seen in the evidence of Rory Chor blades. We will be talking about Rory Chor blades a bit later. But the site also has given evidence of Rory Chor blades, though very few in number. We do have these copper bronze punch points, which most probably were used for producing these blades. Interestingly, we also have few proto blade cores which were produced, which were prepared, but the blades were never taken out. So what happens in crested guiding ridge technique is that you have to produce a crest on something like here, this one. Yeah, so so you produce a crest on a nodule, and that crest guides you for your further blade production. And that crest is generally produced so that you have very parallel sided blades, which you can see the blades are perfectly parallel sided when they are produced by using crested guiding ridge blades. So we have again some representation of the blades, crested guiding ridge blade as giving evidence for the technique. We even have these exhausted cores with which show presence of intact crested ridges on the backside of the cores on the backside of their on their backsides. The idea is that they would produce multiple crests so that if there is any imperfection or there is some problem, another crest could be utilized and you can go on producing the blades. So here we have some of the other exhausted cores. These are the points which we have from the site. And these are some of the row-richard blades which have been identified from the site. So based on the data from Datrana, as well as two sites which have been explored, not excavated, I have kind of identified an early Harappan pattern, like a pattern in the lithic assemblage, which belongs to the early Harappans with proper evidence of having contact, sites having contact with Sindh. So what do we see here? These are all these sites. One excavated, two explored, actually three explored, but the third site is still under study. So all of these sites have evidence of blade making using crested guiding ridge. Very few geometric tools have been identified from the sites, but all the sites have more number of points. Chalcedony, massively, the raw material used for manufacturing these tools in this particular period is just chalcedony, and they have used crested ridge technique. I think I mentioned that already. And all the sites show a few pieces of row richard blades. So the presence of row richard blades and the presence of crested ridge technique, and of course we also have early Harappan pottery from these sites, but not looking at the pottery, not only relying on the pottery for giving evidence of contact between Gujarat and Sindh. Stone tools are very important in this aspect. So this is like a pattern which I am kind of seeing nowadays in these sites, which kind of fall under the category of 3300 BC. Not the category, but the period of 3300 BC. Okay. Coming to these two contemporary sites belonging to the urban period or the mature period of the Indus Valley civilization, like the proper Indus Valley civilization. So we already talked about the sites. These two are very contemporary to each other in terms of their time frame. If you can see, both the sites have given evidence of blades. Bagasra has given evidence of geometric tools as well as non-geometric tools, good number of lithic debitage. From Shikarpur, we do have a lot of blades, not so many geometric tools, very limited non-geometric tools, but ample amount of lithic debitage. So one of the argument why geometric tools, again, most probably because these were being used as composite tools. Both the sites, crested guiding ridge technique was being followed for manufacturing these tools. Okay. What I want to show here is when we look at Bagasra here, the chert. Chart, if you see here, these are percentages. So 58% blades are made out of chert. 72% geometric tools are made out of chert. 86% non-geometric tools have been made out of chert, and 86% lithic debitage belongs to the category chert. While when we look at row richard, there is hardly any lithic debitage, some evidence of non-geometric tools. I think there is one big flake which has been used as a scraper, and limited amount of blades. But when we look at Shikarpur, what we see, row richard, almost 90% of the blades are made out of row richard, and the corresponding lithic debitage is less than 1%. So what does this mean? This basically means that Shikarpur was importing row richard blades. So they had the means to import blades in a massive quantity from Rohri Hills, now situated in Pakistan. We do have some lithic debitage corresponding to chalcedony and banded agate from the site, Shikarpur. But then chalcedony and banded agate are stones which were also used for manufacturing beads. So most probably these, I have not looked at the bleeds, but most probably these lithic debitage percentages which we see here is because of the bead manufacturing activity, not the blade manufacturing activity carried out at the site. So here we have some again representative samples from first the site of Bagasra. So we can see a few Rorichard blades which are very much there. Again, hallmark of the proper Indus artifacts. We have blades which are made out of what are known as the locally available material. We have these geometric tools, good number of scrapers, and of course we have the cores. When we come to Shikarpur, everything is basically Rorichard blades, and we have these very few number of tools which are made out of other raw material. But basically, as we have already seen, 80% of the tools we have made out of Rorichard. Okay, so Rorichard blades are very important when it comes to the Harappan civilization. For the longest time, if you have Rorichard blades from your site, it was like, okay, our site is mature Harappan. But now we can see that Rorichard blade also makes an appearance in the early period. So it's not that if you have Rorichard blades, your site is a mature Harappan. It could also mean that the site was a little earlier. So Rorichard blades are very distinctive. They always get a lot of attention due to their exotic nature. And so Rory Hills have been exhaustively studied. Professor Biaggi and his team, they have identified multiple workshops where people were mass producing these church blades. We should remember that Rory Hills, as I said, are now situated in modern day Pakistan, somewhere around, as the crow flies, 500 kilometers from Gujarat. So, but they were mass producing these blades at these hills. They are very well known for their standardization, and they are widely distributed across all the sites belonging to the Harappans. And you can see that they are very standardized. I mean, yes, Rorichard blades were intentionally broken, so the lengths are very different, but we can see very clearly that the breadth and thickness kind of are the same. So, which again adds to the whole point that they were very standardized and been manufactured in a particular area. And so they are very important from various Harappan sites. Now coming to these two sites which are associated with the Sorat Harappan, both the sites coming into the time frame of somewhere around 2200 BC and later. So there, if we look at the lithic assemblage from both the sides, it feels as if there is a decline in the use of stone tools. So P3rd, we'll first talk about P3rd. P3rd has a few blades, very few geometric tools, but there is a kind of an increase in the number of non-geometric tools, which is also corresponding when we look at the non-geometric tools from Kotara Badli. So in the non-geometric tool category, what we have are the scrappers. So somehow scrappers were more preferred, or scrappers were preferred over blades in both these sites. Again, we don't know the exact reason why. P3rd chert was the preferred raw material, and it has been found in the vicinity of the site. Here again, quartering technique was more popular, though we do have a few flakes showing evidence of crested guiding ridge. So maybe they kind of tried their hands with this particular technique, but it didn't take. So coming to Kotra Bhadli, we have very few number of tools. Since the site is situated in Kutch, maybe that is the reason why the raw material is predominantly chalcedony. And according to the excavator, the raw material source has been identified somewhere around 20 kilometers away from the site. They say that the tools show like the researcher who has carried out the analysis says that the two dominance of bagged and modified pieces as well as a lot of burins. So burins we don't have from Peter, but we do have from Kotrabhalli. Um, Lack of geometric tools has been taken as minimum reliance on composite tools, and presence of blade cores, but the absence of actual blades has been taken as manufacturing of blades away from the site. Um, they have not identified any particular type of manufacturing technique. So it has been said that the core reduction has suggested various techniques involved in detaching the blades and the flakes. Here we have a few representative samples from Peter. Unfortunately, I do not have any material from Kotrabhalli. So we have some blades, some blade flakes, few geometric tools, and a lot of strappers, and a few blade cores. So what do we see? So what do we learn from all this and from this sequence? So that there is a difference in the preference of tool type between these various sites. Again, why exactly that has to be kind of looked more into detail, like we need more detailed analysis. There is a preference of technology. So like in Loteshwar, it's a regional site. We have these local traditions. Loteshwar actually kind of follows the same tool technique which was followed in the earlier Mesolithic period. So like a long tradition of tool making at the site, similar type of tools were produced at the site. When we come to the next period, we have these sites which show contact with tin, which can be seen in the lithic tools, not only in the pottery, which I think is very important. When we come to the mature Harappan period, we have these very, very standardized lithic tools in terms of rory-churred blades. But as we have seen, even contemporary sites can be very different in their lithic tool exploitation. So Bagasra had more preference of locally uh, uh, tools which were manufactured locally and tools which were very varied, while Shikarpur has kind of shown preference of these imported lithic tools. Again, Shikarpur is a site which is very, very distinctive. Not only in their lithic aspect, but even in their other architectural and not architectural, but other artifact patterns. When we come to the regional Chalcolithic, in terms of the Sorat Harappans, we see that stone tools are kind of becoming less important. So we can basically see that all the lithic assemblages have very characteristic features. We just have to make the effort to understand them. They reflect typological choices, they reflect technological choices which have been carried on from generation to generation, or choices which have been um, taken because they came into contact with a new group of people or a new type of technology. We do understand the trade and exchange network which was going on between various Harappan sites, and of course, so we kind of also understand what was the interaction between these sites and how people might have used these different tools. So this is just my analysis based on the typology and technological features of lithic assemblages. Now let's talk a little bit more, not more, little bit about the functional aspects. So we have seen how the tools were manufactured, and we have seen what type of tools which we have from these sites. But how were they actually used? So function of the tools is something people are still trying to understand, not only in the Chalcolithic period, but even in the Paleolithic period. So all these interpretations given in the 1930s, they have not given any rationale for them. So most probably, they just looked at the tool and thought that this could have been used for something. Like Marshall says that it could have been used for cutting meat and other type of domestic all-purpose tool. Mackay has said that they most probably were used as knives. And we should remember that these two are basically talking about the Rorichard blades, because that's what they were finding from the major Harappan site at that point of time. So one of the earliest actual experimental work comes from Professor Kenner in 1984, where he analyzed the blades found from re-excavations of Mohenjo-daro. And he, in his paper, says that these blades most probably were used in different functions or on very specific materials. And he has done experiments on shells. So, like incising shell might have been carried out using the Rorichard blades. Mary et al. In 2007 found these stone tools, again, Rorichard blades, from Nausharo, from a potter's workshop. The tools were found from the potter's workshop. And they did a lot of experiments, and they also did user analysis, and came to the conclusion that these tools were used for trimming the clay vessels while the vessels were on the potter's wheel. So removing the excess clay from the wheel, these blades might have been used. So Weber in 2011, while doing residue analysis mostly from pottery, they have also analyzed a few, again, Rorichard blades, and have found some evidence of eggplant and mango starch. So in 2021, Professor Sinha did a very intensive microwave study of blades found from Dholavira. But then he has given a very huge range of work which might have been carried out using these different type of blades. So which includes everything. So cutting, whittling, scraping, slicing, boring, drilling, piercing, grinding, different type of objects might have been used. So grasses, even bone, antler, shell, etc. So it's a very wide variety. But then yeah, okay. So Dholavira was a city, so most probably they were using these blades in very many different ways. Marchand, that's it. Like 2 years ago, that was a study which was still ongoing. So she was analyzing material from the site of Chanudaro in Sindh, the re-excavation material, and she again the raw material which she was coming across was Rorichard, and she was able to identify these gloss on the pot on the blades. But as I said, this was an ongoing analysis. So at that point of time, she was not sure whether this gloss is because of the grasses, I mean, working with the grasses, or because of working with what Mary et al. Said, working as pottery burnisher. So there was definitely a need for a new approach, a need to understand these tools properly. And residue analysis is the craze these days. And so even I thought that, okay, let me do something. I have seen these, analyzed these Rorichard blades from Bagasra and Shikarpur. And I saw these very strong gloss on the edge of these blades. Now, silica, which is found in the plants in the form of phytoliths, has been identified as producing this particular type of gloss. So, silica gloss, and we have that particular gloss. So, I decided to use phytoliths as residues. And then this particular project came about, which thankfully was funded by the European Commission. So past phytolith analysis and stone tools, a socio-economic analysis of stone assemblage of Northwestern South Asia. So why Northwestern South Asia? One, because I wanted Rorichar blades, of course. But then I also wanted new material, because whenever we want to analyze, whenever we want to do residue analysis, the blades have to be unwashed. And so I wanted to analyze material from a new excavation where the blades were unwashed and the blades were kind of selected in the way that I could kind of control. So very thankfully, I'm very thankful to Modagro project and Professor Marco Madela for including me in his project. And so I was able to get my hands on material from these two sites, Bandakubo and Talujabit. Both are situated in Sindh. Both are mature Harappan sites. We have the proper Harappan pottery, animal bones, artifacts, etc., etc. So I looked at the blades. Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of number of blades, but beggars cannot be choosers. So whatever was available. So in total, I was able to analyze 53 blades from both the sides. Um, Here we have a representation of the blades that were found from the sites. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to form a methodology which is replicable. So not only for our study, which can be used again and again. So what has to be done in this particular methodology? So tools were just picked up without washing them, as I said in the beginning also. And once they were brought to the lab, then they were washed with distilled water without applying any pressure. And thankfully, this because the site is in Sindh, the soil was in a form where it could get washed off without applying any pressure. So this particular washed sediments became our control sample. Okay, one more thing I wanted to add here was that so residue analysis, when we apply to stone tools, it has some, as all these things, it has some limitations. And South Asian context in particular, because in from South Asian context, most of the time the tools are not found in situ. So that is a major problem. So when we don't have the tools in situ, how can we be sure that the residues which we have from or which we extract from the edge of the tools give us information about the use of the tool, and not because they have picked up things from where they are sitting around. And especially in the case of phytoliths, I was given this argument again and again. So that's why we really wanted to make sure, and we tried our level best to kind of understand this problem and kind of work around this problem. So after the tools were washed, what we did was we observed the edges. Basically, I observed the edges under high magnifying microscope to see if I can identify some wear traces or I can identify some in situ phytoliths. Unfortunately, I could do neither. The third step was the extraction from the edges. So I really wanted to understand and keep these two edges separate, right? Whenever we have a blade, we have two edges. So we in the South Asian context do not have any evidence of hafting. Obviously, these are tiny tools. They have to be hafted. You cannot actually, you can hold the Rorichur blades in your hands, but the other tools you cannot hold in your hand and use them. So, but unfortunately, we do not have any evidence of the hafting. So, I wanted to kind of understand if we can see this evidence of hafting in while extracting, because obviously if one edge has been hafted, it's not going to produce any evidence of the plant work. So what we did was, we kind of hung our tool in a manner that only one edge is in the water, and then it was sonicated for 2 minutes, and then that sample was kept separately for both right edge and left edge. So ultimately, I had three samples: control sample, right edge sample, and left edge sample. Not going to go in under detail, but generally, the phytolith extraction process involves a lot of chemicals, right? But then people who study phytoliths from sediments have a big sample. Like they start with 4 grams. And if you can see here in this table, the sample that I had was 0.0%, right? So it's a very, very small number. So I could not do the usual phytolith extraction process involving all these different types of chemicals. Otherwise, whatever phytoliths that I could find would just get destroyed. So when you have hundreds of phytoliths, it doesn't matter. But when you have only 10 phytoliths, it really matters that you kind of get all of them and identify all of them. So we did not do any chemical analysis in our edge extraction samples, and we directly shifted the samples to the tubes, dried them, and then rehydrated them, shifted them to the slides, and tried to kind of identify the phytoliths which we can see. So unfortunately, out of the 55 blades which we have, 22 blades I was able to keep both the edges separately. From 13 blades, only one edge could be one sample from one edge could be extracted. Like one edge was broken or it had some other problem, etc. And then some blades were very narrow, and it was just impossible to kind of have different edges separately. So we just had to take them as one tool. So this is the sample. Okay. So I'm not going to go in detail, but just to kind of show. So we came across a lot of differences between the edges. And a lot of differences between these two sites, especially in terms of the types of phytoliths we were able to identify. So what we can see is that from both the sites, we have a lot of what are known as long cells, which are the fundamental cells in grasses. We have some evidence of short cells, more so from Talur Jabit than from Bhandakubo. We have a lot of this other, these are what are the, mainly they form bulliforms, and they are also part of grasses. So basically, all the phytoliths belong to different types of grasses from both the sides, but with differences. So these are the different types of phytoliths that I was able to identify. And as you can see, the samples are very, very dirty. Like a person who specializes in archaeobotany will not even look at these slides because they are just so dirty. But I have already explained why they are so dirty. So these are the different types of phytoliths I could find. So what do I see? So this was like one of the very few efforts of trying to understand phytoliths as residues from napped lithic tools. And again, as I said, we wanted to have a very standardized and reproducible approach for the extraction and analysis of the tool residues. This is also very significant because this is one of the first studies to kind of follow very established phytolith research protocols, because this study was done in collaboration with archaeobotanists. So what do we see? So we see that the tools were involved in the processing of grasses, especially like for cutting grasses, millets, and winter cereals. Uh, there are evidence that the tool might have been hafted. Like the phytoliths were only, we were able to get phytoliths only from one edge. And I have already explained why it is not because the tool was lying in the sediment. So possibly some evidence of hafting, though we don't have the actual glue. Bhando Kubo has given evidence of domestic as well as wild millets, while Talur Jabid has shown more evidence of wheat and barley. So again, these two sites contemporary to each other did have difference in their plant exploitation strategies, right? So one, I mean, obviously, like all the studies, there are problems. One of the major problem that I was able to find was the lack of polish. But polish is a very tricky subject. So if you, I did an experiment when I was doing my PhD. So if you don't do an activity for a very long period of time, you will not find proper polish, right? So maybe that was one of the reason. Maybe. So that kind of needs more analysis, or maybe they were using these tools for something else, and that also needs more analysis. So if we really want to understand how these tools might have been used, we kind of have to, again, as said in 1984 by Professor Kenner, we have to have large samples of strategically excavated materials which have been properly recorded, measured, analyzed with specific problems and hypotheses in mind, right? And it's high time we kind of give importance to the lithic part of the Chalcolithic period. So the next steps, we need new excavations with proper new methodologies. We need a lot of analysis. We'll need a lot of in-depth analysis of stone tools so that there can be comparative studies. We need statistical studies. And of course, we need to understand functional analysis by doing experimental as well as residue work as well as microwave analysis of different type of tools. So coming to an end, I would like to thank a lot of people, starting with my PhD guide, Professor P. Ajit Prasad, my old department, the Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MS University, North Gujarat Archaeological Project, Mod Agro Project of Professor Marco Madela, Kutch Archaeological Project by my friends and colleagues from Kerala University, Rajesh and Abhayan. I want to thank MSCA for giving me this opportunity to carry out residue analysis, my current fellowship from CIR, Ashoka University, and of course to the State Department and Archaeological Survey of India for giving us permission to excavate these sites, and all my friends and colleagues. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Charusmita. Thank you for this wonderful talk and the opportunities one can investigate using the various recent methodologies on the lithic material. So now I request Professor Sharada to moderate the question and answer session. Charusmita, you can also look into the chat box. You can also read those while Professor Sharada will also moderate.
Okay, Charusmita.
Yes.
So a lot of questions from Professor Prakash Sinha, and I think some of them you were trying to address even within your talk. And so we can begin with the ones from the top, where he asks, did you encounter truncated backed blades and convex backed blade at any site? Did you find pressure technique used on non-Rory chert or chalcedony?
Yes. So truncated back blades, I am not so sure. Convex backblades, yes, we do have them from different sites. Though I think we have them from Bagasra, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe the few geometric tools which we have from the early Harappan context. Yes, pressure technique or chalcedony. Yes, so all the blades which fall into the early Harappan category. So and they are made in from chalcedony. They all the blades show evidence of pressure technique for sure. Yes, and chert. Okay, used on non or chalcedony. Yes, so we have them on chert. We have them from agate. So basically, all the cryptocrystalline silica which could be found. Between used phytolith polish and post-depositional residue. Okay, sir. So I could not see a lot of polish. I think I have already said that in my talk. And yeah, so I could not see any polish. So there is no question of trying to understand the post-depositional residue. More than one edge use. What about the wooden like half? Okay. Yes. Wooden like haft. I mean, I'm still trying to understand the hafting methods. What I find interesting is we do not have any evidence of any type of glue. So more than the actual haft, which might have been made out of wood or bone or whatever, we do not have any evidence of the glue which might have hold it together. So yes, so it could be so some of the blades I have a feeling that they might have used one edge and then flipped the tool to use the other edge. That is also one possibility that I think. Okay. Rajasthan and Chalcolithic site.
Yeah, so the question is, if there was a comparative study, do you have any plan to study lithics from the Rajasthan and Chalcolithic sites like Bagor, Tilwara, Malhotra, and North Gujarat sites like Langnaj?
So I would love to. It all depends on the availability of the artifacts. So right now I'm involved in the project to understand the early Harappan interaction between Sindh and Gujarat, but I am interested in understanding the whole Mesolithic Chalcolithic conflict. So for sure, if I have the artifacts, I would definitely like to expand.
Yeah, so
okay.
Professor Prakash Sinha again asks what attributes identify the pressure technique. If you can just quickly answer that.
Oh, okay. So, sir, we do not have a very prominent bulb of percussion. The bulb of percussion is very, very diffused, and the blades are very symmetrical. So these are, and of course, the way the platform has been prepared, which can be seen on the proximal end of the blades, the platform preparation. So these are the ways I have tried to understand pressure technique. What was the earlier one?
I think this question, I'm not very sure if it's clearly etched out. It's related to the terminologies that you have used with respect to this Harappan sites and the civilization itself. So,
oh goodness.
If you want to answer, it's okay. Otherwise, you can.
I mean,
move on.
I don't know. I mean, I find it, I kind of use them very synonymously, Indus Valley civilization or Indus civilization and Harappan civilization. So I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So I don't see a Q&A box. All I can see is a chat box. I'm not sure if I'm because usually we ask our participants to type something in the Q&A box.
Right.
But because
I don't see it here on my screen as well.
Yeah. So in this version of the webinar link, we don't have the Q&A box. So I request the participants, if they have any questions or comments, to type in the chat box. So the next one is by Shikha, who asks, have you come across any evidence for preference of any particular technique at any site?
Okay, so the moment we have introduction of crested ridge, that becomes the dominant technique. So even for the sites of Bagasra and Shikarpur, I mean, yeah, everything was imported, but Bagasra, we do have most of the blades produced using crested ridge technique, though there was some evidence of what has been termed as the quartering technique. Okay, result of gloss studies. I think I have already mentioned that I have not come across the proper gloss from the blades which I studied in this particular research. I have seen the gloss from the blades in Gujarat. So I have not done any experiments with pressure techniques. So I don't know why. I don't think we need experiments with pressure techniques. We do need to understand the gloss. Unfortunately, now I don't have access to the blades from the sites in Gujarat where we have more gloss, which kind of led me to think that since these blades were imported, they were so important for the people that they were used for a very long time, which resulted in a very good formation of the gloss. And again, they are coming from a very far distance, and people are making that effort to kind of bring them all the way like 500 kilometers and at that time and period. So they were kind of using these blades as much as possible from the sites in Gujarat. That is not the case from these two sites situated in Pakistan, unfortunately.
Okay. I don't see any other pertinent questions. I think you've answered most of them. So, yeah, I think we are done with all the questions.
Yeah, I think we don't have any other questions. So, Dr. Charusmita, I thank you very much for sparing the time. I see one more question. Can we take this? Maybe.
So yes, geopolitical issues, sending blades. They did not come to India. Unfortunately, I had to go to Europe to access that material. I mean, it's sad that we cannot have access to our neighboring country. So yeah, they did not come to India.
Yeah, but there are opportunities like you can study it anywhere, right? Anyways, I mean,
Yes.
there is always an opportunity if someone is going to send the samples. And yeah, there are a lot of opportunities. I thank you very much, Dr. Charusmita. I thank all the participants for sparing their time to attend to this lecture. And I also invite all of them for the next month's lecture too. I thank my colleagues for conducting this webinar in a very smooth manner. Thank you so much. Thank you for all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.